In this video, I'm going to talk about finding the x and y intercepts of a line given an equation. Problems like this, where it says find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of this line, and then they give us an equation involving x and y. I'd like to start by talking about what the x and y intercepts are. So on a graph, which might look something like this, the x-axis is this one, the horizontal line, and the y-axis is the vertical one, the one going up and down. If we have a line going through the graph, let's say the line looks like this, then the x-intercept is where the line crosses the x-axis. So this point is the x-intercept of this line. And the y-intercept is right here. This is where the line crosses the y-axis. Now, I want you to think about these 2 points, the x and the y-intercept, and what the coordinates of those points would be. For the x-intercept right here, think about what is the x value and the y value of that point. The x value is how far left or right that point is, and I'm not sure. It's definitely positive. It's on the right-hand side, but I don't know what the x value is. However, we do know the y value here because it is not up or down any distance above 0, right? So the y value of this point has got to be 0. At the y-intercept, similarly, we are not quite sure what the y value of this point is because this is just a sketch. I'm not sure exactly how far up the y-axis that point is, but I do know what the x value is. The x value of this point is 0 because this point is right in line with the 0 on the x-axis. So for the y-intercept, the coordinates of it would look something like this, 0 and some number. And for the x-intercept, the coordinates would look something like this. So the lesson here is that at the y-intercept, we know one thing. We know that the x value is 0. Okay, and at the x-intercept, we know that the x value is 0. Sorry, that the y value is 0. At the x-intercept, we know that the y value is 0. So y equals 0 there. So you should remember this. And remember that y-intercept goes with x equals 0. So the y and the x are kind of opposite here. So let's go back to the problem we were looking at. Okay. Again, for the x-intercept, we are going to use the fact that y equals 0. And for the y-intercept, we're going to use the fact that x equals 0. So for the x-intercept, to find it, we can replace y equals 0 in this equation. So we would write 2x minus 4 times 0 equals 8. This is going to give us the x-intercept because I've replaced the y with 0. Now let's solve this equation for x. 4 times 0 is just 0. So this part cancels out. And on the left-hand side, all we have is 2x. So 2x equals 8. If 2x is 8, then x is half of 8, or x is 4. So this is our x-intercept. We replaced the y by a 0 to find it. And the equation that we ended up with, x equals 4, this x tells us, or reminds us again, that this is the x-intercept. So for the x-intercept, we are going to write 4. Okay, for the y-intercept, we are going to replace x with 0 in our equation. So we are going to write 2 times 0 minus 4y equals 8. Now 2 times 0 is 0, so this first part cancels out, and what we have left is negative 4y equals 8. In order to get the y by itself, since y is involved in multiplication, we need to use division. And what do we divide by? We divide by what we want to cancel out on the left-hand side. What we want to get rid of there is the negative 4. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 4. Then the negative 4's will cancel out, and on the left we'll have just y. What is 8 divided by negative 4? Certainly the answer is negative, because we have a positive divided by a negative. And what is 8 divided by 4? 8 divided by 4 is 2. So our answer is negative 2. So the y-intercept, since this says y equals, that tells us that this number is the y-intercept. Our y-intercept is negative 2. So those are going to be our answers, 4 and negative 2. Let's put those in. 4 and negative 2. Awesome. Let's do another one. Okay, again, we're going to start by noting that at the x-intercept, y equals 0. And at the y-intercept, x equals 0. Let's work on the x-intercept first. To find the x-intercept, we're going to replace y equals 0 in this equation. So we're going to write 2x plus 0 equals 4. Now, adding 0 won't change the value of 2x. The left-hand side is the same as just 2x by itself. If 2x is 4, then what is x? X must be 2. And the x right here reminds us that this number is our x-intercept. So the x-intercept is 2. Then to find the y-intercept, we're going to plug in 0 for x in this equation. So we're going to write 2 times 0 plus y equals 4. Now 2 times 0 is 0, so this cancels out. And the equation tells us that y equals 4. And that y reminds us that this number 4 is the y-intercept. So let's put in those two answers, 2 and 4. Excellent. Let's do one more. Okay. Again, remember that for the y-intercept, the opposite variable is 0. Or at the y-intercept, x is 0. And at the x-intercept, y is 0. And we're going to find the y-intercept first. So to do that, we are going to replace the x with a 0. To find the y-intercept, we're going to plug in a 0 for the x. So we would write 3 times 0 minus 2y equals negative 18. Then 3 times 0, that's 0, and our equation becomes negative 2y equals negative 18. How do we get the y by itself? Well, we need to get rid of this negative 2, and that negative 2 is involved in multiplication with y. So we can use the opposite of multiplication, division, to get rid of the negative 2. Then the negative 2's cancel out, and on the left-hand side we have y. Now what is negative 18 divided by negative 2? Our answer is going to be positive because we have a negative number divided by a negative number. And what is positive 18 divided by positive 2? What's half of 18? The answer is 9. So our y-intercept is going to be 9. Okay, for the x-intercept, we're going to replace y by 0. So we are going to write 3x minus 2 times 0 equals negative 18. Now 2 times 0 is just 0, so this whole thing cancels out. This says 3x minus 0, and that's the same thing as 3x. If 3x is equal to negative 18, how do we get the x by itself? We have to get rid of the 3. 3 is being multiplied by x, and so we divide to get rid of the 3. And then these 3's cancel out. And our answer is negative 18 divided by 3. And what is negative 18 divided by 3? Well, our answer's got to be negative because we are dividing a negative number by a positive number. And what is 18 divided by 3? Or what is 1/3 of 18? The answer is 6. So our x-intercept is negative 6. So we're going to put negative 6 right here. Let's check if those answers are correct. 9 and negative 6. Awesome. I hope that was helpful.